Hi, folks. I'm here to do the weekly overview, admittedly later than normal, but I have to say it is really nice to be doing a video again after a few days. Um, I've grown so accustomed to just kind of do the. It's a really nice feeling, and I miss it when I don't do it. Um, Yesterday was the first day when I really felt like I was back to normal. Um, and the energy right now is just so strange and almost full moony in its intensity. And some of it is understandable. As you guys know, diving right into things, June, as I've told you all along, May, June, and July are forward moving months. And especially with May, there was a sense of what I've been calling sort of moving on the diving board. And June is the month where we jump off. June requires a certain element of commitment. And indeed, the new moon video that I did last week, the new moon in Gemini video, that was the word. And the commitment is the commitment to creating or accelerating or inviting the change that you would like to bring and see in your life. And some of it is understandably being done on faith. I'm interpreting this based on the readings that I've been doing recently, the people I've been talking to, seeing whatever it is that's going on for me. And a lot of that connects to the energies of the squares that we're seeing right now, right? The personal planets, the Sun, Mercury, Venus squaring Saturn, and then as this week goes on, getting ready to square Neptune, Mars having squared Pluto earlier today. Now, the squares with Saturn and Mars squaring Pluto were covered as part of last week's weekly overview. So this one does kind of pick up on that. Let me first, before I go into the interpretation, let me just give you a sense of what is going on over the next 7 days. Okay. Some of you will know this, some of you will not. Mars squared Pluto earlier today. That's what we're picking up from. Tomorrow, Mercury squares Saturn. So we've had the Sun and Venus square Saturn. Tomorrow, Mercury squares Saturn. Mercury is in Gemini. Saturn is in Pisces. I can feel me wanting to interpret, and I'm going to pull myself back. Day after tomorrow on the 14th, the Sun and Mercury conjunct. Now this happens plenty of times during a year. But I'm going to come to that. Then 2 days after that on the 16th. So on the 12th, I'm doing this video on the 11th. On the 12th, Mercury squares Saturn. On the 14th, the Sun conjuncts Mercury. On the 16th, Venus squares Neptune. Venus in Gemini squares Neptune in Pisces. And Venus then leaves Gemini and enters the sign of Cancer. On the 17th, Venus conjuncts Mercury. The sequence should be on the 17th, Mercury squares Neptune, Mercury enters the sign of Cancer, and conjuncts Venus in Cancer. So again, the week picks up on the squares to Saturn, and I will talk to that, Mercury squaring Saturn. The Sun and Mercury squares Saturn tomorrow on the 12th. The Sun conjuncts Mercury on the 14th, on Friday. Hold on a second. On the 14th, on Friday, I'm not losing my mind. Tomorrow, Wednesday, the 12th, Mercury squares Saturn. On Friday, the 14th, the Sun conjuncts Mercury. On the 16th, Sunday, Venus squares Neptune and enters Cancer. You know, it's just as well we're doing the weekly overview today, because at least it allows us to cover everything up to the Venus-Mercury conjunction. And then, because on Monday, the 17th, Mercury squares Neptune, enters Cancer, and conjuncts Venus. It's perfect. It actually makes it complete. So, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter are in the sign of Gemini. I have done videos on Jupiter's transit through Gemini. I have done videos on the remaining transits in the sign of Gemini for the year. I've done the new moon in Gemini video last week. These are all resources so that I don't make this a repetitive video. Those are all resources to help you through that process. As the planets enter the sign of Gemini, they trined Pluto in Aquarius, but then they moved into the squares with the two planets in Pisces. Saturn first, the Sun and Venus already having squared Saturn, and indeed the new moon in Gemini exerting its influence from the 6th of June to the 5th of July with square Saturns. That's built into this particular month that we're in. Mercury squares Saturn tomorrow. Then the Sun and Mercury have their conjunction in Gemini on Friday the 14th. Venus and Mercury that are starting to move ahead of the Sun now will, on next Monday and Tuesday, the 17th and 18th, square Neptune, which is in the very last degree of Pisces. So in the very last degree of Gemini, Venus and Mercury will square Neptune and Pisces. They're going to move into the sign of Cancer, and they're going to conjunct. Great. Even though the personal planets, including the Sun, by the middle, by next Thursday, Friday, will enter the sign of Cancer. Remember, we're still in the Gemini month till July the 5th, until the next new moon, which will be in the sign of Cancer. And all this talk and the energy of the squares that we're dealing with, remember that the squares shortly thereafter will turn into trines. So when the planets entered Taurus, they squared Pluto, just like Mars entered Taurus yesterday, or day before, no, yesterday, and squared Pluto earlier today. But within 6 weeks, Mars is going to end up trining Pluto. Similarly, these planets that are squaring Saturn and squaring Neptune while they're in Gemini, once they move into the sign of Cancer, will get ready to, you guessed it, trine Saturn and trine Neptune. So the importance of the squares and the square energy, it is these squares that really made me think, and the fact that with the Gemini new moon it is squaring Saturn, that made me realize when we were looking ahead at May, June, July, that June was going to have an intensity to it. And then the intensity is about forcing action. Action needs to be taken, particularly in the Gemini portion of the chart, as I've been saying, to help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. But that's not the only story. Action getting ready to be taken. And I'll bet you that this is what is giving us this full moony feeling right now. Typically, after a full moon for about 4 or 5 days, a week after the full moon, is the best time to be productive. The energies are at their most balanced. Well, for me, I've sort of been out of alignment with these energies. I fell sick during that time. Then we're heading to the new moon and things that, then you kind of have that kind of flat pre-new moon energy. Then the new moon happens and the activity starts up. And that has been true, at least for me and for others that I'm noticing since the 6th. But all of a sudden, the energy, as we haven't even reached the first quarter moon yet. I think it's on the 13th. I think it's on Thursday, the first quarter moon. We're still 10 odd days away from the full moon in the first full moon in Capricorn, which, by the way, squares Neptune. The first full moon in Capricorn has its own kind of squaring intensity. May had a certain push behind it that was very aligning and forward moving, and we could sense that change was in the air. But we were coming off of the eclipses and we were coming off of Mercury retrograde, and it was much easier to walk to the edge of the diving board till about June the 4th or 5th, or even, let's just say, till the end of May. June, as I've said, the intensity and the pressure is on to take action, to really commit to and create the changes that you feel you need to make. Some of these changes may be, as I've been saying, represented by the North Node eclipses in Aries, the one we had last. It's the eclipse whose influence we're under, occurred on April the 8th, conjunct Chiron in Aries. The house in your chart occupied by the sign of Aries, what it stands for, we're meant to lean into it with a certain amount of caution, because where the North Node eclipse is and where the North Node is, we're gonna get so excited about it, and it's gonna feel so right that we're gonna kind of want to gallop over in that regard, jump off, run on the diving board and jump off the edge of that diving board. But as we have learned, especially probably learned in April, May, June, July, and August of 2023, that is not going to help, and that is not part of the plan, because the eclipses exercise their influence till the middle of next year. We had a solar eclipse in Aries on April the 19th of last year, April the 8th of this year, March the 29th of next year. So it is a process, it is a change. We have things to release between October and the end of March of this year. We're going to have things to release between October and December of the middle of October of 2023 to the end of March this year. We're going to have things to release again, October 2nd to December 2nd of this year. We're going to have a series of retrogrades that'll take us to the middle of April of next year, and it's really from the middle of April to the end of May, beginning of June of next year that we'll see this, what direction we're moving towards. It has a kind of an expansive, perhaps a wish fulfillment quality to it. Remember, with the North Node and the North Node eclipses, they do tend to promise more than they deliver, but the promise, the yearning, the sense of rightness is basically trying to develop skills, comfort in a certain part of the chart. It is telling you where the expansiveness is, and it is leading you in a certain direction. The chart keeps moving. So when the North Node eclipses deliver this less than they promise, part of the reason, the purpose of it, we never arrive. The chart never arrives. We never arrive. It just keeps moving. But when you have squares back to back to back to back to back, especially to heavy hitting planets like Saturn and Pluto, action is demanded. And I think it is the intensity around these actions that is creating this very full moony feeling that a lot of people are having right now. I have seen, as I've mentioned to you before, the week before and after the Gemini new moon, particularly June the 8th, a couple of days after that new moon, that takes us to about June the 15th, could bring eclipsy developments that could be related to that new moon solar eclipse in Aries, especially for people who have Mercury direct in their birth charts. I have seen people over the last week and a half, gain a certain kind of visibility and opportunity and eclipsy growth that could lead to a kind of a quantum leap of opportunity for some folks. Not every eclipse hits people with the same intensity. Not every one of these milestones hits people with the same intensity. I have seen people get clear on and actually be able to make much more decisive and concrete changes towards these Aries eclipse, this pull that we've been feeling since April 19th of last year, but accelerating through July, August, only to then be thwarted till the end of March. Then we waited till the eclipses and Mercury retrograde being done, and that is why May, June, and July, as I've been saying, forward movement. Forward movement being governed by opportunity and opportunities and certain doors that open and some that close, and necessity. The need to look for a job, the need to get out of a relationship, the need to look for greater financial security, and intensity around this, a stress, a pressure. That is what gets us into action. And with these squares, action is needed. First, action is needed, not first. Forgive me. because the squares are happening. It's not a question of first or second or third. Action is needed in the Gemini part of the chart with the Sun, Venus providing some sort of opportunities, relationship opportunities, Mercury providing communication to help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. That is what Saturn is trying to do in the Pisces part of the chart, where either you are being asked to concretize plans towards moving in a more spiritual or artistic direction, ambitiously, realistically, solidly, or else you are dealing with a crisis and confusion and deception and fogginess that has been present and growing since 2012, but especially came into focus in 2016-17. And Saturn since March 2023. And I know my regular video viewers are tired of me hearing say this. I'm trying to cover all bases, including for people for whom this might be their first video of mine that they're seeing. Saturn's entry into Pisces since March of last year, exposing what is real, teaching us the lessons with regard to how we may have contributed to a certain situation, asking us to be wise, mature, strategic, conscious of cause and effect. Act in our benefit. Stabilize this part of the chart, but wisely, non-reactively, not emotionally. Mars is the planet of action. And where Mars is, our energy goes and action occurs. And the fact that Mars squares Pluto or squared Pluto earlier today, it's very possible that over the past few days, past 10 days, especially since Tuesday of last week, things have accelerated in such a way that it has become clear to you that some action needs to be taken and you're being called upon to do it. And this is where opportunities may have shown up as well. What is giving it a full moony feeling is the sheer amount of work that some of us may have to do. And that is Mars squaring Pluto. We've got to be in action to allow Pluto to transform the Aquarius part of the chart. And the years when Pluto actually makes its entrance are important years. January 20th and February 20th this year may really have given a sense of some of the first domino that Jupiter decided to topple in the sign of Aquarius. And Jupiter is going to be in Aquarius over the next 19 years. Now, we know that between September and November, it's going to go back into Capricorn to dot the I and cross the T on the transformations it's been making in the Capricorn part of your chart since 2008. And I have videos on Pluto's transitions through Capricorn and Aquarius, separate videos. I think if you look at my current transits playlist and just scroll down, you'll see them there. I need to clean up that playlist, but you'll find them there. Or you can just search for them and they'll come up. I don't think we have much of a choice. I think we know and can feel. And it's where we are not taking action that is creating the anxiety. But with all these squares operating, the Sun, Venus just squared Saturn recently. The new moon has the square to Saturn imprinted till July the 5th. We have Mercury squaring Saturn tomorrow, bringing some pressure on communication. We have Mars squaring Pluto earlier today. So if you're feeling like, all right, I know action needs to be taken, but where, how many fires do I put out? What all do there's opportunity, there's necessity, I'm back in action, more action than I have the capacity to handle. That's what's giving this a full moony feeling. But there's also, it would not surprise me at all if it has a kind of a do or die feeling. Get into action. Deal with things, create the change, because you have to. Or else their change will be created through consequences that are not going to be that easy to deal with. So being in action, and whoever, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but someone reminded us of the adage that necessity is the mother of invention. And that was so right about this time. And I would say it's both. There are opportunities that are showing up that go, oh my God, I've got to, there are opportunities that are closed, but there is that door, those doors that are open that are saying, all right, apply yourself, come here. And then there are those things that are necessities that are saying, all right, you got to deal with me before I turn into a total crisis. June Between May, June, and July, June is the edgiest month because of these squares. And when the planets enter the sign of Cancer, sure, they're going to trine Saturn and Neptune, but they are going to get ready to square the North Node and Chiron. And this is just the phase that we're in. And ultimately, in some respects, whatever it is that the Sun and Venus and Mercury are trying to do with this new moon, and action will need to be taken in the Gemini part of the chart to help handle the, to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Don't forget that in about 6 weeks' time, Mars is going to enter Gemini. And yes, it will trine Pluto, just as it squared Pluto today. But then it's going to square Saturn and Neptune, and that's when a lot of action will also get involved from the Gemini part of the chart. So now, Mercury squares Saturn tomorrow. Communication, something going on in the Gemini part of the chart needing attention. Communication being needed perhaps to help stabilize and support Saturn. What happens when a square happens is that the slower moving planet, the stronger planet, kind of checks. It's like a stop sign, as I've described to you before. It's a face-off. Mercury is stopped by Saturn. It isn't an opposition. It's a square. And just like at a stop sign, the faster moving planet is going to move faster. And so it needs to take that action to take care of something that then allows Saturn, the path is cleared, and Saturn can also continue to make the change that it's trying to make. So the larger question in my mind as we're dealing with the energy of this week is, when will we have the time to honor all these squares? At this point in time, Mercury square Saturn. Mars square Pluto is already here. And it is a call to action, and it is a demand for action, and it would not surprise me at all if your to-do list has just blown up. Action is needed related to the Taurus part of the chart to help Pluto in Aquarius make its changes. Some of these are going to be opportunities with Mars. So many people look at, and it does right now have a slightly explosive quality, just because we're talking about Mars, we're talking about energy. By the time we get to Venus and Mercury squaring Neptune, if you feel like you can't quite honor Mercury communication to Saturn just yet, know that you have time, probably till Monday and Tuesday, till the 16th and 17th, when Venus and Mercury are going to square Neptune before they move into the sign of Cancer. Venus providing an opportunity. It may be that a certain harmonious tone, a certain strategic harmonious communication may be needed to help stabilize the Pisces part of your chart. You might be able to get to it by tomorrow. You might have gotten to it over the past few days. You may be brewing on it. You may have so much to do that you may not have gotten to it because the Mars-Pluto square is stronger. But we are in a Gemini month, and that month continues till July the 5th. And in 4 or 5 days, these squares to Neptune will become stronger. I think right now, stress is being caused by what we can't get to. And stress is being caused by a lot that we have to do. Not everything is going to get done in the next 24, 48, 72 hours. You can just go task by task by task by task by task. But it's possible that by Monday or Tuesday, you really feel like, oh, I got all that cleared. Let's talk about the two conjunctions. The Sun conjuncting Mercury is really about the communication cycle in Aries that began, was it April 11th? Give me one sec. April 11th. April 11th, a retrograde Mercury and the Sun met up in the sign of Aries and started a communication cycle in Aries. And the a Mercury cycle in Aries. And Mercury cycles can't be ignored. They kind of provide the bedrock on which sort of opportunity stands. And it has a very, because we're talking about Aries, that's where the North Node is transiting. That's where the North Node eclipse occurred on April the 8th, excuse me. And that North Node eclipse encoded, because it was on April the 8th, and on April the 11th, Mercury retrograde and the Sun conjuncted, this Mercury-Sun conjunction. Another reason why, as we head towards June the 14th, over the past couple of weeks, even till June the 16th, sorry, June the 15th, June the 1st to June the 15th, eclipsy events might occur for people, opportunities. But more importantly, there's a communication cycle and phase that reaches a certain fruition or milestone. Now, from June the 14th to August the 5th, the Mercury cycle continues. August the 5th is when Mercury goes retrograde in Leo. And then August 18th, the next Mercury cycle begins in Leo. But between June the 14th and August the 5th, we get to expand. It's a little bit like the phase of the Mercury cycle between April 11th to June 14th. Actually, it's not April 11th to June 14th. It's April, when did Mercury go retrograde? April 24th, 25th, thereabouts. It's that date. It's April 24th, 25th to June 14th. That phase of the Mercury cycle, when Mercury went direct on April 24th, 25th to June the 14th, is the part of the Mercury cycle that builds a foundation of communication. Everything in our lives today is communication. Emails, phone calls, technology, Wi-Fi, YouTube videos, the technology I use to do readings, both in terms of where I keep my charts and what I use. Something communication and transaction related will have reached a foundation phase by the 14th. And from June the 14th to August the 5th, you get to build on that and expand that. Related to the house occupied by the sign of Aries in your chart, where the eclipse is occurring and where there's desired growth, what is pulling us forward. Remember that the forward momentum and the pull in our charts right now is still being provided primarily by the Aries part of the chart, but also the Taurus part of the chart, which now has Uranus. But the April 20th conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus we're going to feel the effects of that over the next 12, 13 months. And now that Mars has entered Taurus, it is over the next 4 or 5 weeks going to get ready to conjunct with Uranus. Right now, as of today, we've just dealt with the square to Pluto, which is action-oriented. Whenever planets conjunct, they have a conversation. The Sun and Mercury get to have a conversation in the Gemini part of your chart. What communication do you need to work on in order to stabilize the Pisces part of your chart? What communications need to occur in the Gemini part of the chart that are going to help support the Aries new moon solar eclipse on April the 8th, but build on the Aries eclipse last year on April the 19th, and help you move towards where you feel the growth is, that takes you back to this narrative of a certain pull between April and August of last year, and then September to March release, April, not sure how to move forward, May, June, and July, where we are at right now, moving forward, August, pause, I'm talking about 2024 now, September, October, November, part of November move forward, but October 2nd to December 2nd get ready to release again. And then Mercury retrograde, Mars retrograde, Mercury and Venus retrograde till the middle of April. And then the final push, that's the final birth canal, after which by the end of April to the end of May, beginning of June is when we're finally, of 2025, through and into and have incorporated what we need to incorporate. It does not matter if what was delivered was less than what was promised. Does not matter, because we'll have taken from it the growth and the learnings that we need to, and the eclipses will continue to move forward. Indeed, they are already starting to move forward between July 17th and September 17th. September 17th, we have the first set of the North Node eclipses on the Pisces-Virgo axis in Pisces. When Mercury and Venus conjunct in the sign of Cancer, what house is occupied by the sign of Cancer in your chart? What communications need to occur relationship-wise and financially? I'm going to talk more about that Venus-Mercury conjunction, so don't let this be your only influence on that. To summarize, Mercury square Saturn tomorrow. If there's some communication that you've been sitting on that's making you anxious, you haven't been able to get to it because you have so much going on right now, that will help stabilize the Pisces part of your chart. You may actually have till next Monday and Tuesday when Venus and Mercury both square Neptune before they enter the sign of Cancer. Figure out the urgency in the chart is likely being caused by the Mars-Pluto square earlier today. You may have a lot to do. June requires action, commitment towards the reality you have to build. And the two things that are pulling us are opportunity, a desire to move in a certain direction, a desire to avail of certain opportunities, a desire to see those opportunities come true. Not all those opportunities will be concrete for everybody yet. For some people, though, the first 2 weeks of June will make those opportunities more concrete. Offers may come through. Visibility may occur. You may feel like you are in an eclipsy way being propelled in a certain direction. For other people, the action and the change is inevitable. And so it has to be an internal, quiet resolve to move towards the eclipses and to accelerate and manifest that change, even if there's nothing to hang it on just yet. And the change is being caused by opportunity and necessity. Where are the stresses that are making you act? It's the universe's way of saying, I need to get you onto the diving board, and I need you, in June especially, to commit and jump and take action and create a healthier, more exciting reality that is in line with the change that you want to envision. The change that is calling and inspiring you through opportunity, and that is necessary based on certain crises that have also shown up since April. And June is likely to feel hot. And indeed, right now where we are at, energetically, doesn't feel like 5 days after a new moon. It feels full moony because of these squares. And till July the 5th, it is likely to feel that way. And as we head to the full moon on the 21st, that full moon on the 21st, once we get into July, things relax a little bit. The second full moon in Capricorn around July the 21st is gorgeous, but it is conjunct Pluto. We're headed towards that full moon as a kind of milestone right now. July 21st or so. But right now in June, it's action time. Mercury square Saturn, Sun conjuncts Mercury on the 14th, closing a certain foundation building portion of the Mercury cycle in Aries. After the 14th till August the 5th, we're going to build on this foundation. It's like a fruit tree that is it's like the roots have taken hold, and now the tree grows and it starts to bear fruit, and we start to prune hard. It's not even pruning, it's growing. We're expanding on it. By the time we get to the 16th and 17th, that is when really certain actions that you feel you've needed to take to help stabilize the Pisces portion of the chart will become more urgent. And you may find that it's as you get through and past the weekend and as the Mars Pluto square intensity pulls back that you're actually able to get back on track dealing with the Gemini portion of your chart. We are in the Gemini month. That's where the last new moon was. And we are getting to a place where Venus and Mercury, some cordial, polite communication. It could be boundary setting in some ways, but whatever it is, relationship building, boundary setting, sometimes is the same thing, especially if it's done cordially and respectfully, but clearly may be needed to help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. And then Venus and Mercury are the two personal planets that enter the sign of Cancer, and they meet up in the sign of Cancer. But we're going to feel this communication. It's not on the date of the conjunction. We are going to be feeling all these trends. The Mercury square Saturn we've been feeling for the past 5 or 6 days. So if there's something that you have been meaning to communicate and you haven't been able to get to it, well, guess what? This is why you're feeling angsty. And understandably, you've got a lot going on. Mars has been squaring Pluto at the same time. That is what has been drawing our attention for the past 5 days and accelerating and accelerating and accelerating all the way through today. So the squares continue. Mercury squares Saturn tomorrow on the 17th. On the 16th and 17th, Venus squares Neptune, and then Mercury squares Neptune. We start to contemplate what creativity related, Venusian relationship related, finances related communications need to go out, probably to help stabilize, as I said, the Pisces part of the chart, relationships in general. Could be related to Venusian activities, beautification, luxuries, depending on where the signs of Gemini and Cancer sit in your chart. But you're going to start feeling that now. You're not going to just feel it on the 17th when it occurs. In summary, my darlings, embrace the action. It really is kind of do or die time now. I hate to use that phrase but I don't think we're going to, the energy suggests that I don't think we have a choice. And if you look at this video and you're just like, well, I'm not sure if you don't feel that it applies to you, then just continue to observe how things are unfolding. Those of you who are feeling this energy know what I mean by the gates are open and the universe is like waiting on us and going, are you going to start moving on this? I'm giving you the opportunity, I'm giving you the opening. For some people, it's a very concrete. For other people, as I said, there are opportunities and there's necessity. And that's creating the sense of, I have got to get to it. The full moony Mars square Pluto action needing to be taken, to-do list explosion will calm down a little bit as we head towards Monday, Tuesday. But from that time to the full moon on Thursday, is that when the full moon is? Thursday, Friday, something like that of next week, it'll accelerate again. Why not embrace the craziness and the action and jump into it? Because sometimes to manifest things, it's great to have a lot to do and to be in action, because then you're not obsessing about the results related to the things that you worked on. You automatically have to let go of fixating on the outcome. And that is when things can collapse into place. At least that's what I find for myself and for others. I hope you found this weekly overview helpful. I am delighted that I've been able to do it and to get it out. If you are interested in me taking a look at your birth chart and providing any guidance that way, my email address is in the description box below. You can use that to communicate to me. I have cleared out all replies to emails that I've gotten, so please check your spam folder if you feel like you haven't heard from me. Feel free to let others know if you find this video helpful or applicable, or you know, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you can. Thank you to and welcome to all the new subscribers. And next to the subscribe, there's a bell icon. If you hover over that, there's a wiggly bell on top. Click on that and you will be notified when I do new videos. There's a thanks button. You can use that to contribute to the channel as well. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who comments and likes. It increases circulation on YouTube. And yeah, I will be back in touch.